to use it for RX over the last year and a half. All resources are available. Engines, crews, dozers, fuel tenders, caterers, all of it. But fiscal year 24, all funds will need to be held at the local level. Last year, Region 5 spent $20 million of WO funds. And they were like, no more, we don't have the funds. So this year it's definitely held back at the local level. The region does not have any funds to pay for it. So you're going to need to work with your forest leadership and zone leadership. Next, we're going to touch on AD hiring. The 2023 AD plan removed the language of the 300-hour cap per person per calendar year. So now we can use those ADs that may have spent out all their fun or all their hours on wildland fire. We can now utilize them for prescribed fire. And it also removed language that restricted hiring to no more than 24 hours prior to ignition, which is huge because a lot of times if you're going to hire operations position, they need more than 24 hours to get familiar with the unit and what's going on. So the 2024 AD plan is considering adding IMETs, but at this time that hasn't been established. But we'll go into what is available for IMET use in a later PowerPoint or a later slide, sorry. So national agreements for RX. Right now we have 2 TNC agreements. One is for pretty much prescribed fire implementation. They have about 40 people at this point in time to come help out with burning. You go in through the portal and you put a request in, but we ask that if you're going to do that, you reach out to myself or Stephen Fillmore and let us know that you're putting in through the portal a request for those resources so that we can let the WO know that those requests are coming through. The next agreement that we have is at the national level is one that is funded to help get projects done on the forest. And the Six Rivers is trying to do something that's pretty innovative through this portal. And they're trying to help fund setting up an outpost for TNC to hire local folks to help with implementing prescribed burning. We'll put all the links to everything that's highlighted orange into the chat after the presentation. And we also have the IMET agreement that's held at the WO level, and we'll go through the process in the next slide of how to request that for your burn. Under development, there is going to potentially be a DOI agreement. Right now, due to funding concerns, it has been put off until fiscal year 2025, and they'll revisit whether they're going to be able to put funds towards that, or if it's just going to be a national master agreement where the regions put funds towards a SPA, with their local DOI partners. And there is going to be potentially a second one for cash supplies to interchange them. And the funding mechanisms haven't been figured out yet. So more to come on that in 2025. So the IMET agreement that's paid for by the WO, if you go into the National MOB Guide on page 27, it basically tells you step by step what you need to do. But it's just like ordering any resource. Contact dispatch to place an order to the GACs, provide the time and date that you need them for how long. The GAC calls the NWS, and they will assign a resource to your prescribed buyer. So be sure to reach out to your local forecast office when you're going to do that so that they know that an IMET is going to be coming on. Also, please reach out and let us know at the regional office, myself or Stephen Fillmore, so we can let Tim Boyce know at the WO that he needs to be on the lookout for that invoice coming through. So regional agreements in Region 5 that we have that are active that can help with prescribed fire and fuels reduction activities is the NIFWIP agreement. We just put between two different agreements about $50 million. Part of it's bill money, part of it's IRA funding, and they reach out to forest supervisors, and we try to give forests a heads up, or the forest fuels officers, that that's been sent out to the forest supervisor so that they're kind of on par to queue up the projects that they want to submit. So basically you submit it into the regional office, and I think Rachel Hull is in charge of that now, but that will all be in the email that comes out when they're requesting for proposals. And we help with ranking the projects, but we are not the final decision maker. The board at NIFWIF is the final decision maker on the projects that they're going to move forward with. And we also have the CFMA, which is our overarching agreement for fire suppression. But there are two exhibits, D and F, that are embedded into the CFMA that deal with prescribed fire and fuels work. And it can be used with any signatory on the CFMA, not just CAL FIRE. I think people get confused with that because in Exhibit F, it states what qualification the CAL FIRE burn boss needs to have in order to be a burn boss on either our burn or their burn under the CFMA. So it kind of just hashes out that because CAL FIRE doesn't have the same NWCG qualifications that we do, but I feel like they're working towards that in the future, but they're just not there yet. So the overarching agreement is held at the regional office, but it's a forest level agreement once the SPA is being developed and executed. We also have the regional agreement with the National Park Service, which is funded out of the regional office, and it's incoming and outgoing. So we put in originally $50,000, and we're about down to $30,000. And an additional $150,000 is in the works right now. I put in a modification a couple weeks ago to add this year. And so far we've been able to support the Sequoia with an archaeologist, the Klamath with a UAS module, and I believe we have supported them with a couple of engines on their burns. Because the funds are so limited, I'm the point of contact on that, and you can reach out to me when wanting to utilize the agreement. There's a process and a documentation process that we have to do and send to the contact at the Park Service, and they concur with using the agreement and the resources. So it's very easy. It's the same way that you order any resource. You just have to do a little extra in the remarks. So I'm going to touch on CFMA Exhibit D, and it's referred to as a supplemental project agreement. And this one, we typically use it for more of the project work aspect of fuels work, but you can also have burning included in it. This one is usually used to exchange money, and it can be signed by the unit administrator, and you will need a financial plan if you are going to exchange funds. And then Exhibit F is what we like to refer to as the legal handshake. It's specific to prescribed burning, provides a mandatory template for project-specific agreement and an operating plan. And that's where it comes in, where it states that CAL FIRE's burn boss will have ICT-4 and lists out the qualifications that that CAL FIRE burn boss will need to have. But as I said before, it could go, these can be used with any of the signatories on the CFMA. And there is a new one coming out, hopefully in January of 2025. The CFMA has been extended until December 2024. It expired, I think like in June or something like that, but it's been extended. So all of the exhibits F and D have been either modified for the extension or are just lasting until the end of the extension. And next, we're going to touch on UAS, aerial ignition and availability. The Forest Service has 67 aircraft available. The big takeaway from this slide is that Lindsay Johnson and Jesse Plummer are your UAS coordinators. So if you're having any questions or concerns about how to incorporate it into your burn plan or anything like that, reach out to Lindsay Johnson and Jesse Plummer. And the instructions for ordering and UAS ordering and aerial ignition. This is what this slide is covering, and orders will be placed through dispatch. Coordinate with Jesse and Lindsay. Order trainees when possible, and placing the order. Request unmanned aircraft, rotary type 3, and in the special needs sections, you want to hit on what you want, the PSD machine, camera sensor, and then all the other things that come along, which are in the final 2 bullet points. And the order will be filled with 2 UAS aerial ignition remote pilots. So that was a huge amount of information. I'm always here to help out with any of these topics, and just wanted to let you know what you had available to you that some of you might not know that you have available. And yeah, that is a lot of information PowerPoint, but I wanted you to know it was out there. And I'll put this up.
Thanks, Robin. That was a quick tour of a lot of different things that we have available. You mentioned that UAS. I just put the best practices document that Matheson put out recently into the files. Hopefully that takes. If not, I'll add it. And it looks like maybe we got some questions. So let's see. Bert, come on up. First contestant.
Hi, Robin and Stephen. Bert Stalter, Sierra National Forest. Just a quick question on UAS for prescribed fire, the aerial ignition plan. Is there a template that for doing when we're planning for aerial ignition using UAS that we could use to start that and get it started? I have a pilot that works for me in fuels, and he's a UAS pilot, and I kind of want to get him started down the road of kind of working on that.
Yeah. You want me to take that, Robin?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so are you talking about the firing plan? What is it, element 14 or whatever within the burn plan itself?
Yes.
As far as I don't know that I've ever seen a template for that. I've seen that approach different ways. I can certainly provide you with some examples if you want offline here separately. If you were talking about the mission aviation safety plan, of course, you get that from your unit aviation officer because that is a very specific template, of course. But if you're just talking about within the burn plan, no, I don't think there's any real standard to that per se. But I'm happy to help you with that. Yeah.
That's probably what I'm more looking for, Stephen, is just the using UAS for aerial ignitions. Usually we're used to the last time we used any kind of aerial firing was we wrote in our plan. This was probably 10, 15 years ago. We were doing aerial ignition with ping pong machines and helitorches. Yeah. So this came a long way since those days. So I just kind of need to get caught up to speed about what we have to introduce, because I'm writing basically a forest or a district level prescribed burn plan, a programmatic. So I just want to get aerial ignition put into that.
Okay. Yeah, programmatic might be a little trickier. Yeah, for sure. We could talk about that as well too. That program, as part of the National Prescribed Fire Program Review, one of the problems is identified with that is like with programmatic burn plans, there was real problems with not identifying those site specific like pinch points or whatever. But I don't know, it might work. what I found with these using UAS, and I want to open this up to everybody, maybe using the UAS is it's not a lot different. The fundamentals are still there. You know, obviously you got to identify aerial hazards and specific concerns and all that sort of thing that we're used to. So it's not a whole lot different as in my experience. But if anybody else who's on the call has an example of that element of a burn plan that's incorporated UAS, I know it's happened on at least a few other forests. Be great to see some other examples. Otherwise, I can round you up some, Bert. So
Okay.
you want to just follow up with that?
Very
Yeah,
much.
we can follow up with that afterwards if you want.
Yeah, and obviously the Shasta and the Klamath have,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yep.
because they're using that.
Yeah.
Throw them in the chat. That'd be good because I got to get on a call at 4:30, so I won't be able to stay in after. Thanks,
No
though.
worries. No worries. I want to say the Purdue and the Cleveland might as well too. So yeah, there's some others. Great question. Any other questions pertaining to the things Robin talked about, or I guess
All
anything else?
these things, oopsie, I'm gonna delete my PowerPoint.
Oh, this is good. That's interesting that they're looking at IMETs, IMETs. I'm not sure what pool that would draw from, but
Especially when we have the WO overarching agreement that's funded.
yeah.
We don't know how long that's gonna last if everyone starts using IMEDs, but I feel like Region 5 was the biggest user group last fiscal year, which is great.